You know, when you think of Home Depot, you probably picture those orange aprons, maybe the smell of lumber. It is, after all, the biggest home improvement retailer on the planet. But hiding behind that facade is a wild story. A story of a company that was teetering on the edge of operational collapse and was saved by one of the most ambitious database overhauls in modern history. This is the story of how Home Depot literally tore its digital foundation down to the studs and rebuilt itself from the ground up. This quote, wow. It just gets right to the heart of the whole problem, doesn't it? See, at its core, this wasn't really a management problem. It was a data architecture problem. Every single one of its 2,000 stores was basically its own little island with its own separate brain. And that kind of decentralized chaos, it was about to cause a total system-wide meltdown. So, to really wrap your head around the scale of this rebuild, we've got to go back and look at the situation in the early 2000s. It wasn't one single system, not even close. It was this sprawling, completely disconnected mess of aging tech. I mean, this right here perfectly explains that company of islands idea. You had these ancient mainframes chugging along, databases that literally couldn't talk to each other. Each store had its own server, keeping its own records. Inventory wasn't live, it was updated in batches, which means the data could be hours or even days old. And the website? Well, that was a whole other system, with its own product info and its own inventory count. It was just a complete recipe for disaster. And, well, that disaster didn't take very long to arrive. This wasn't just some technical debt that only the IT department had to worry about. Nope, it started bleeding out onto the store floor, affecting real customers and creating a massive crisis of confidence. This was the moment it all started to crumble. So imagine this. You check the website, you see the exact drill you need is in stock, you drive all the way to the store, and you find an empty shelf. The employee, trying to help, checks their terminal and it says there should be 3 in the back, but there aren't. Trust in the company's most basic promise, we have what you need, was just evaporating, not just for customers, but for their own employees too. And listen, this wasn't just about frustrating customers. This was a colossal financial problem. The company fundamentally had no idea what it owned or where it was. You can't manage a supply chain like that. You can't fulfill online orders reliably. You can't give your managers good data to make decisions. They were literally flying blind with billions of dollars worth of inventory. So this brings us to the turning point. The company's new leadership was facing a system that was actively failing, and they had a choice. Do you keep patching up a sinking ship, or do you just build a completely new one? In 2007, they made an incredibly radical call. No more patches, no more upgrades. They committed to a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar project to just start over. The goal sounded simple, but it was monumentally difficult. Create a single source of truth for the entire company and make it available to everyone in real time. The plan was just audacious. I mean, this isn't something you can do over a weekend during a maintenance window. They had to perform open-heart surgery on a massive, living, breathing retail operation, replacing every single critical system without shutting down a single store. The risk was absolutely immense. So, what does it actually take to replace the entire technological core of a company like Home Depot? Okay, let's get into the technology investigation of the new architecture they built from scratch. So they didn't just bet on one single technology. They built a hybrid powerhouse. For their core transactions, the stuff that absolutely positively has to be right, they used Oracle Exadata. For workloads that needed to be spread out everywhere and always on, they went with Cassandra. And they started breaking apart their old, clunky, monolithic applications into these nimble little microservices. And the engine behind all the real-time updates, Kafka-style event streams. It was a complete rethink. Now, this comparison right here shows the single biggest philosophical change they made. They moved from those slow, outdated batch updates to a live, event-driven system. In this new world, every single action, a cashier scanning an item, a forklift moving a pallet, became an electronic event. That stream of events meant their view of the business was no longer a snapshot from yesterday. It was a live video feed. And it wasn't just the inventory problem. The product catalog was its own unique mess. You had thousands of vendors sending data in all kinds of different formats. So they solved this by building a centralized product information management system. For the very first time, there was one official correct source of truth for every single attribute of every product they sold. This didn't just clean up the data, it totally revolutionized their e-commerce experience. So, with this new foundation finally in place, Home Depot started to change. It really stopped being just a retailer that used technology and started becoming a technology company that just happened to be in retail. And the results? They were staggering. You know what's so cool is how one capability just builds on the next. First, they finally knew exactly what they had in stock. Okay, that let them unify the online and in-store inventory, which solved that original customer crisis. From there, the system could send instant signals to restock a shelf, and that evolved into predictive ordering, actually anticipating demand. All of this led to the complex services we take for granted today, like reliable curbside pickup, which is just impossible without perfect, real-time data. This new data fire hose didn't just organize the stores, it transformed their entire supply chain. It became a predictive machine, pulling in everything from sales forecasts and vendor shipping times to even weather patterns. Knowing to ship more generators to Florida when a hurricane is on the way. That level of intelligence. And this is what it looks like today, the modern Home Depot stack. It's this sophisticated hybrid cloud architecture. You can see the evolution, right? Powerful data warehouses like Teradata and Snowflake have joined in for deep enterprise analytics. And machine learning is now a core piece of everything, from predicting demand to personalizing the website for every single customer. So the key takeaway here is this. When you walk into a Home Depot today, you're not just walking into a big warehouse full of stuff. The physical aisles, they're just the user interface for a massive, complex, real-time data processing machine. The scanners are the sensors, the supply chain is the execution layer, but that unified database, that is the company's brain. It's what turned that collection of islands into a single continental powerhouse. And that really leaves us with a fascinating final thought. Home Depot proved that it's actually possible for even the biggest legacy companies to completely reinvent their digital core. So the question becomes, if a big box retailer can pull it off, what does that mean for other old school industries like banking or healthcare or manufacturing? What does it mean for everyone?